Hi, welcome back to PC Builder. I'm Jason. We got so many great questions this month in our Q&A. We've got questions on the GPU market, of course, including some really good ones about whether or not you should be buying now or you should wait until the next generation launches. There's a lot of stuff to think about there. And of course, the new AMD CPUs are out. A lot of folks had questions on the budget line as well as the high end. Where do they rank? What CPU should you be buying? As well as the best CPU and GPU combos if you get value out of this video. Give it a like, it makes a big difference to the channel. And of course, subscribe and click that bell icon. That way you get notified when we release cool content. With that, let's jump into it. Before that, this video is sponsored by VIP SCD Key. Say goodbye to crazy expensive Windows 10 licenses and that terrible Activate Windows 10 watermark. Right now, use the links in the video description, head over to VIP SCD Key, and get a Windows 10 Home or Pro OEM license for a great price. Pick your product license, then use the PC Builder discount code PC25 for an additional 25% off. Go to the activation settings on your PC, put in the code, and boom, you have a fully licensed Windows 10 for a crazy low price, which can be upgraded for free to Windows 11. Use the links in the video description below. Well, let's start out with what else? The GPU market, and especially, I think this is a really good question asked by Shinji Mori, XMX, Frank. They're all basically asking the same question, which is, hey, should I buy now, given the fact that new GPUs are going to be coming sometime at the end of the year? We've got new Ryzen 7000 CPUs. Should I be building like a Ryzen 5000 system or an Intel i5 12th gen system with a current generation GPU, or should I get something else? Great question. The first thing you have to remember is what the upgrade cycle typically looks like. So I know a lot of people thinking, well, if we're going to get new graphics cards rumored by the end of the year, fourth quarter 2022, possibly into 2023, there's nothing confirmed yet. It's still all just rumors. Maybe I'll just wait another 8-9 months and I'll get a graphics card then. Just remember though, the first graphics cards that they always release, and this is how they've historically done it, are the Halo products. So this is like your RTX 3090, or I guess it'll be the 4090 or the 7900 XT, or whatever they call their top-end graphics cards. Those are usually the ones that come out first-ish, along with their flagship cards. The flagship cards is like the RTX 3080. On the AMD side, it was more like the 6800 XT. So those are the cards that you expect to come out first. And then there's often a gap. If you're waiting for like the 6700 XT, the 6600 XT, the RTX 4060, those might be quite a ways off. Those might be months and months off from whenever they release that next generation card. So you might be waiting another year and a half to get something. And I know there's so many people out there who've just been waiting forever to build a gaming PC. And they're like, you know what? Let's just build something now. But what about the Ryzen 7000 CPUs coming? That's a whole nother issue, because Ryzen 5000 Intel 12th gen, you're going to get 95 to 99% out of those graphics cards. And think about it this way. Yeah, you can build a Ryzen 7000 system. You're going to have to buy DDR5. Don't know what the price of DDR5 is going to be. Don't know how expensive the new motherboards are going to be. I would gather that we're going to have to spend quite a little bit more than we are now. So your cost is going to be higher. And then the graphics card you're going to be buying, unless the GPUs come out much earlier than anticipated, you're still going to be buying a GPU from this gen in order to build Ryzen 7000, or Intel 13th gen. So it just doesn't seem to make any sense to me to wait right now, unless you're like, I can only build one computer in the next 5 or 6 years, and it's got to have to be that one. So I would think about buying something now, going ahead and building now. Get gaming. Don't wait another year and a half. I mean, there's always going to be something coming down the pike that you might wait for. Forget all that stuff. Build something now. You can always upgrade the graphics card. If not the next generation, generation 2 cycles from then. And of course, you can just pull it out and put the new one in. So that's how I would think about it. McKing asks, what about Intel Arc GPUs? Should we be waiting for them? Will that cause GPU prices to drop even more? And this is going to be a short answer because nobody knows what's going on with the Intel GPUs right now. It's obviously a total mess. They were supposed to be out 2021, third quarter, then fourth quarter, then first quarter 2022, then second quarter. And right now we're sitting on summer 2022. Why summer? Because summer goes into the third quarter. So they're really just giving themselves more wiggle room without having to say, oh, now it's the third quarter and looking even worse. I mean, it's obviously bad. I do trust that they will eventually get all this stuff sorted out. I kind of peg it down to that Intel is trying to do too much all at once. There was no reason in my mind that Intel had to try and compete up and down the product stack, that they had to introduce all these additional technologies like XeSS in there. I think they're just trying to do too much. Even for a massive company the size of Intel, this is a huge endeavor. Just get a good low-end card, get a good mid-range card, and then build towards the high end in following generations. But they're trying to have it all right now. They're trying to have their own XeSS and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's killing them. It's just all speculation on my part, but I know Intel wanted to launch these things last year. So the fact that we're still sitting here, a quarter of the way or a third of the way through 2022 and kind of no sign of these GPUs, that's bad. Not even on the mobile side, I'll say, they supposedly have one model selling in South Korea. Yikes. I would not be waiting for Intel GPUs. And in fact, I think you got to call into question that whole, we're going to ship 4 million dedicated GPUs. Now remember, dedicated GPUs means laptop and desktop. So mostly it's probably going to be laptop too. So what are they going to add? About 1 million GPUs? AMD and NVIDIA on their own ship something like 41 million discrete GPUs. That's, again, laptop and desktop. So 4 million in there. It's about 10% of the overall volume. It's not a huge deal. I certainly wouldn't wait for it. Go ahead and buy something right now. Our Anton and Rankara asks a great question. What's going on with Ethereum proof of stake? Has it been delayed? Yes, it has. Let's get into it really quickly. If you're wondering where all the GPUs are and why GPU prices went absolutely bonkers, it had to do with the explosive growth of cryptocurrency, and in particular, cryptocurrencies that are GPU mineable. Remember, Bitcoin is mined with an ASIC miner. Ethereum is mined with a graphics card. And Ethereum is like 98, 99%, especially now with the values coming down, 98, 99% of all the market cap for all the GPU mineable coins are Ethereum. They're moving from proof of stake, where you mine it with a graphics card, hugely energy intensive, completely wasteful. They recognize it. They're moving to a much more sustainable model called proof of stake, where it's not going to be GPU mineable. It's going to be essentially secured through people making an investment, a monetary investment in the network. And that was supposed to come off in June of this year. And I've been telling folks, when that happens, there's going to be a huge flood of used GPUs that's going to slam the market, going to completely drop prices. This has happened before. When Ethereum crashed in 2018, 2019, you could get an RX 580, which was still a current generation GPU, for like $65 used. It was crazy. That being said, with this announcement that they're not going to be ready in time, what's going on there is basically there's no major bugs, but there's just too many bugs for them to feel confident moving forward without another series of test nets. And that's essentially what they're going to do. They're going to fix the current generation of bugs, and then they're going to run another series of test nets, see where they're at. And they basically want to keep running test nets until there's essentially no errors whatsoever. That's what Tim Byko indicated in Twitter. He's one of the lead developers for Ethereum. He and I have had some Twitter conversations around what the timeline is for proof of stake in the past. And I would just take his word as gold. I certainly wouldn't be waiting around for these used GPUs at this point. The GPUs right now are coming down, and the used market is massively improving. So I'm not even sure you're going to have to wait that long. I wouldn't be like banking on it though, but when it happens, it is going to be big. We've got a great question from Casual Gamer and from Jeremy. And essentially it's like, the question I hadn't really even considered, and I had to put some thought in, with new graphics cards coming, they're supposedly, at least on the NVIDIA side, supposed to use so much power, like 450 watts, like crazy amounts of power just for the graphics card, especially at the highest end. Should gamers right now, if you're building something now, be more future-proofing your PSU by buying higher wattages? There is a separate question, of course, when the new highest end GPUs are all going to use the PCIe Gen 5 connectors that were just announced. Very, very few power supplies currently support those. You'll probably end up just using an adapter like you can now for a lot of things. So you'll use an adapter. It's not going to be that big a deal. You don't have to run out and replace your power supply right now with one of the Gen 5 ones. So should you be thinking about that building now? Well, here's how I would think about it right now. If you're building at the very highest end, you're probably not building right now. You're probably waiting. Why is that? Because you're going to wait for the next Halo level of graphics cards, and that's what you're going to buy. So why buy a 3090 now when you can probably spend about that much money and get way more performance at the end of the year? But if you're at the mid-range, which I think is green light build territory right now, because new graphics cards are not going to come probably until mid-2023. So at this point, over a year, I would just go ahead and build something now. I wouldn't necessarily future-proof my power supply unless you can do it for not that much money, given that the mid-range cards are unlikely to use the huge gobs of power that the high end. But if you're somebody who's building lower end now and you think that you're going to buy in at the high end when they come out later this year, then yes, I would up the power supply. That's how I think about it. We got great questions from David John and Funkadelic Peach on the lower end AMD CPUs that just came out. What's their place in the market? What about the Ryzen 5500 and 4500? Should we be considering them, especially given the competition with the i3-12100F? AMD released a whole bevy of new CPUs, including the 5800X3D at the top. Great CPU, especially if you're thinking about, if you already have a Ryzen system and you just want to upgrade your system to kind of the latest and greatest. 5700X, phenomenal CPU. The 5600, great addition. I would buy that over the 5600X unless it's only like, $8 or $10 difference. Those CPUs are all great, but as I called it in my last Q&A, the rest of the CPUs are really just AMD's garage sale. Kind of like going to someone's garage sale and seeing stuff that you kind of like, but it being like 3 times as much as you want to pay. And that's what AMD's done. They've done some stupid pricing on this. The 5500 is not a superior CPU to the i3-12100. I'm sorry, it's just not. It's not even the same architecture as the rest of Zen 3. It's a monolithic die. It has half the cache. It's got all kinds of problems. It's basically a 5600G with the graphics cut off on it because it didn't pass muster. That CPU should be $85, in my opinion. They should have done what they did with the Ryzen 1600 AF when they re-released it and they ported it from 14 nanometer to 12 nanometer, and they made $85. That made a lot of sense. $85, I would be recommending the Ryzen 5500 all day, but I feel like they felt they had to put some room in there for like the 4100, the 4300, the 4500, the 46, whatever, all these junky 4000 CPUs that they normally sell to OEMs but just can't get rid of. They decided they had to squeeze them in, so that inflated the price of the 5500 and others. Honestly, I wouldn't buy any of this stuff. The i3-12100F, phenomenal CPU, great budget gaming CPU, and unless we see the Ryzen 5 5500 fall to $100 or less, it needs a big gap because the 1200 is better in every way, just about, especially for gaming, than the 5500. I wouldn't touch those CPUs with a 10-foot pole. More great questions about AMD CPUs, including should you build now or should you just wait for Ryzen 7000? That was what Apollo and Gary asked. Here's my thoughts on current generation versus waiting. So if you're somebody who always builds at the ultra high end, then just wait. You're not going to wait that much longer. I feel like really looking at, AMD will probably wait until DDR5 prices stabilize a little bit because you're going to be buying DDR5 for that. So do expect that if you build at the high end, the system cost is going to be greater. You're going to get more performance out of it, don't worry. But it's going to be greater because of the DDR4 or DDR5 prices. Probably the cost of the new motherboards will also go up, unfortunately. And if they do to us what they've done with the Intel motherboards, I am a little bit concerned. If you're building in the middle of the tier, then I think buying now makes sense. Why? It has nothing to do with the CPUs, has everything to do with the graphics cards. If you're waiting for a graphics card like a 4060, that's probably not going to be released anytime soon. If you've already been waiting maybe a long time because of the graphics card market, I wouldn't wait any longer. Life is too short. We all know that. Life is way too short. And given the speed of the Ryzen 5000 and Intel 12th Gen series, the CPUs have gotten so much faster than the GPUs have. We're really waiting for the next generation of GPUs to come up a notch. So Ryzen 7000 isn't going to give you any additional benefits that much over Ryzen 5000 or Intel 12th Gen with the current generation of GPUs. Certainly will with the next generation of GPUs, but again, then you're going to wait until the next year sometime basically, or the end of this year to build something. So if you're in the middle of the spectrum, if you're on the budget end, you're building now, do not wait. Just go have a good time. We got questions on the best CPU and GPU combos. I get this question all the time, so much so that in our PC Parts Explained 2022 edition, that we went ahead and I did a whole section of it in the video towards the end. So I want to go ahead and just put a straight plug to that video, and I'll put the link down in the video description so you can check it out. Not a Serious Person. I love that name, by the way. It's awesome. With all the various graphics card models out there, how do you decide what particular type, if you want a 3060 Ti, for instance, which vendor do you get it from? Is it an ASUS card? Which ASUS card do you get? The vendors make various kinds of cards. I will say for this generation, because it was so screwed up by the shortages, what we didn't get a lot of are the videos comparing all the different kinds of cards out there. So there's not as much data for the individual performance of, say, the ASUS Dual 3060 Ti versus the ROG Strix 30 Ti versus the Gigabyte Gaming OC 3060 Ti and so on and so forth, the EVGA one. So there's not as much data, and I would say it doesn't seem like for this generation the data that we have. At the low end, I don't think there's any difference, anything from a 3070 on down. 3070 Ti on down, no difference. Really the difference you're going to hit is at the 3080 level. Then you're going to have cards with different TDPs. If you're going to get seriously into overclocking the card, then you want to take a close look at getting a nice big beefy cooler on it. I would say for the low end, just buy whatever's cheapest right now. That's the direction I would go. At the higher end, you know, do I think it's on a 3080 Ti? Do I think it's worth it, or 3080 spending, you know, $100 more to get the super high end one? Sure, I would get a 12 gigabyte card though over the 10 gigabyte card, and I probably would skip the Ti model because the 12 gigabyte models will give you almost as much performance. And same with the 3090s. I would probably skip the 3090s at this point because you're probably waiting to the end of the year. Another question that got a lot of upvotes on the GPU front. This is AMD versus NVIDIA GPUs, especially with the AMD refresh coming. Logishekund, I'm probably mispronouncing that. Would we get an RTX 3080 or an RX 6800 XT if they were the same price? And what about the 6850 XT refresh that's coming, rumored to be coming in May, around May 10th or so? A lot of people really want an NVIDIA graphics card. If every time I do a survey out there, I get at least a third of the audience will not even consider an AMD graphics card. They won't even consider it. Now, that's fine. It's your money. You can spend it on whatever you want. I think the GPU space needs more competition. I was very pleased to see AMD come up and compete at the high end after not being there for, I don't know, a decade? I can't even remember. Now they're doing it, possibly, if the rumors are correct, going to steal the performance crown. I say steal, they're going to win back the performance crown for the first time in a zillion years in this next generation. But we're talking about current gen. Right now, the 3080 12 gigabyte is just a better card than the 6800 XT at 4K gaming, if that's what you're looking for. 1440p, they're much more closely matched. If you're doing any level of professional work, like video encoding work, the nod definitely goes to NVIDIA card at the same price. But I think what we're going to see is the 6800 XT is not going to be the same price. They're going to keep lowering the price of that as the price of the 3080 goes down, so there's always a little bit of price competition. So Quan asks, how did I get into PC building? When did I realize I want to make a career out of this? Have I realized I want to make a career out of this? I'm not sure. And what are the goals for the future? Let's start there. Well, Quan, I got into PC building when I was a kid. I think I've talked about this. My dad put together the first, I think we had an Apple II. We had all kinds of different old computers. I played Wizardry, was one of my very first games, Proving Grounds of the Mad Overlord. I can't remember when that came out, like 81 or 82. And then of course the IBM clones came, and that's how I got into it, building that. My dad on the side had an IT business. That's where I got into helping him, kind of installing different things. That's what really launched me. And I've done it ever since. And I've come back and forth to it. And I bought pre-builts at times in my life when I was too busy. So I definitely don't knock people who kind of come in and out of it. It's a hobby that can be kind of demanding if you want to stay in it. Finally built another PC around Ryzen 3000, and I just got really somewhat frustrated that there just wasn't a lot of material out there for people who are coming back to PC building. And I just felt like there wasn't really a resource. And my gosh, wouldn't it be awesome to have a channel out there that did that? So I decided to have a channel out there that did that. And I feel like that's really kind of been our niche. We're all about new and returning builders. That being said, I want even advanced builders to continue to watch this and always pick up a couple pieces of knowledge, and also help those who are in the comments down there, figuring out new things. I really want to see a big expansion of PC building. I know a lot of folks want to keep this a very insular hobby. They want to beat up new people. They want to call them noobs. They want to call them all kinds of names because they don't know. Even creators have gotten into this. And I don't subscribe to that theory. I subscribe to the theory that I want people of all ages, of all races, of all ethnicities, all over the world. I don't care who you are. If you want to get into gaming, if you want to get into video editing, if you want to get into PC building, we're here for you. And we want to welcome you with open arms. And yes, we don't mind taking you through the steps. We never get tired of explaining to people how this stuff works because that's why we're here. So that's really my vision for the channel and for the future. I think there's a lot more that we can do, and I'm super excited about it. We get tons of memory questions every time. Let's answer some of these. We've got Eric, Dema Spongier, and Peter, all asking essentially the same question, which is, can you mix and match sticks? What about 3 sticks instead of 4 versus 2? What about different memory speeds or different timings of the same memory? I would avoid any of that. Want to recommend that you always use sticks in pairs. So you either got 2 or you got 4. This has to do with memory controllers, and I'm trying to make this more of a generalized answer. Obviously, it's down to some of the topology and memory topology for the various motherboards and everything. But generally, it's bad to mix and match. So if you're going to go with 4 sticks, it's fine to get two kits of the same kit, as long as they have the same timings and everything, and they're the same sticks of memory. And when you do, I usually try and buy them at the same time. That way it guarantees it. Usually when the serial number of one is just like 1 or 2 off of the other. I would definitely not go with 3 sticks, and I would never, ever, ever under any circumstances mix and match timings. It's okay just to take that kit out and buy a new, if you have like a 2x8 gigabyte kit and you want it 32 gigabytes and you can't find that kit anywhere else, either buy 4 sticks of 8 or buy 2 sticks of 16. I would do that instead over trying to do some kind of crazy mix and match thing. Thank you for asking this question because this is one that people are going to want to focus on. The latency on the new DDR5 kits are huge compared to DDR4, and the speeds are also huge. So they both roughly doubled in terms of the cache latency and in terms of the speed at the same time. So what should you be getting right now? Well, the answer is you shouldn't be getting DDR5 at all. Even for an i9 12900K, I would not get DDR5. I would go DDR4 unless I had just tons of money to burn for the absolute fastest memory. And even then, people are still having some problems running these kits on some of the Intel motherboards, especially they're not working very well in a 4 stick setup. The other thing is right now there's a lot of compatibility issues with DDR5. I would definitely be buying something off the qualified vendor list, the QVL list for memory that each motherboard manufacturer puts out for its individual motherboards. Some motherboard manufacturers do a better job of testing more kits than others. And DDR5, as we found out, it's not like DDR4. We've had DDR4 for a long time. It's a mature technology. We haven't even had to think about a QVL list. But with DDR5, I would steer clear of it altogether because the memory controllers right now are not good enough to take advantage of the platform on 12th gen Intel. We'll see with Ryzen 7000. When Ryzen 7000 comes out, there'll be a lot of testing out there, I should say, in terms of what's the best speed, and then we'll have to look at the prices too. That's how I think about DDR5 right now. I would just not touch it at all until we get some Ryzen 7000 data. And of course, we got a lot of questions about the cat. He's not sitting here right now, but he's a huge part of the channel. He normally sits right in front of me as I record every single video. Can a cat build a gaming PC? Will we ever see Mercedes do a build? Faulty systems, how do they keep their cat from sitting on their keyboard? And Jim's Tech asks, how can he get a cat? Well, Jim, I got a cat for you if you want one. You probably don't know this, but the cat actually builds most of the gaming PCs here. For April Fools, I really wanted to do can a cat build a gaming PC video, but it proved a little too challenging. But we may see Ambrosius do a build in the future. Stay tuned for that. In terms of how do you keep your cat sitting on your keyboard, if you can figure that out and let me know, I would greatly appreciate it. All right, Sam asks, can you please enlighten me as to the name of the cute orange penguin in the back of the room? They need to know this badly. This is Pepe. This is from World of Warcraft, and Pepe was originally introduced in the Garrison in the Warlords of Draenor expansion. Not my favorite expansion, but Pepe was a little thing that you could actually get to sit on the head of your World of Warcraft character. My wife and I have been to at least one BlizzCon. I'm trying to think how many we've been to. We're huge World of Warcraft fans, but his name is Pepe. You can get him on the Blizzard store. I don't have a link or anything to that. You'll just have to jump on there. What else to say other than Pepe's awesome? Remember, if you got value in the video, give it a like. It makes a huge difference, especially this guy right here. And of course, subscribe and click that bell icon. That way you get notified when he releases new cool content. If you're looking to get even more explanation on PC parts in 2022, check out our PC Parts Explained 2022 video right here. You can check out what we would do, including the best CPU and GPU combos. And we'll catch you on the next one.